like to welcome to the studio today Danny Goldenberg of Marine Connection. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you. Thanks for
On behalf of the Entrepreneurs Organization of South Florida chapter, I'd like to congratulate you for earning a prestigious ranking on the 2014 Inc. fastest growing privately held companies in the United States. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Danny, how did you do it?
Well, 2006, that's when we started the company. But before that, when I was in college, upstate New York, Cornell University, I had a little chat with my father, and he told me, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't know what I want to do. You know, what do you suggest?" And he told me probably the most important thing that I heard in my life. He said, "Do what you love." And throughout my childhood, I was a fanatic boater. I did everything on the water skiing, fishing, and I said I wanted to do something related to boating. And luckily, Miami was the place to do it, and I had a special place in my heart for Miami. So immediately after graduating, I moved to Miami. I joined training session to become a yacht broker, and I did that for a while. And then, I started my own company in 2006, and one thing led to another, and we grew the company to a level where it allowed us to make the list this year.
What's unique about your business?
Well, we're a young group of people. I think it's a team. We acquired Marine Connection in 2010, and it was older management. So immediately we brought in some young people, more tech savvy, graphic designers, and actually coders. So we are able to do a lot of marketing in-house, and if we come up with ideas to do a different kind of marketing, we can execute it in-house very quickly. So we're able to reach a lot of people faster. As you know, technology is very important these days in any business.
Sure.
So I think that's our competitive edge, being a tech-savvy boat dealership.
Fantastic. What is your ultimate long-term vision for your company?
Well, obviously, I'm an entrepreneur and I'd like to try different things. I'm at the moment investing in different businesses. So we have an exit strategy. We have a 10-year plan, and we want to grow the company to a level so that we can exit, and then we can have a bigger group acquire us and make the company bigger. I might still run the company for a while, but ultimately we would like to become a national recognized company and become available to more states.
Excellent. So when you bought the company, you, I'm sure, had a vision, a plan post-launch. How has things changed since that very beginning?
Well, when we acquired the company, actually it was one of our competitors. We were doing the same thing, but Marine Connection was a competitor, and it was a tough time at the time. It was beginning of 2010, so things were starting to roll again. Housing market was recovering, and specialty, luxury goods were still a little sluggish. So we started with one brand. We started with only selling one brand, and then once we saw that the manufacturers were investing in manufacturing and coming up with new product, that gave us confidence. So now we have 7 brands. We carry about $10 million of inventory at any moment. So things changed, but the economy, gave us confidence. So it's way bigger than what we started.
Your company is very successful. As an entrepreneur, what habits do you make you who you are?
Well, I always believe in being at the right place at the right time and knowing what you're doing. Back in 2008 and 9, we were just starting out, and the economy was struggling, so there were a lot of opportunities on the banking side where you could get into some bank seized assets and market those things, and and you could actually make good profits at that time. If we were large at that time, we would probably have to downsize, or we'd have to shrink the business.
Sure.
But we were lucky enough to grow in that environment, and when things took off, we were ready to just switch the things on and, you know, move forward with the growth. So timing is very important. You have to know what you're doing. I knew the marine business. I knew every aspect of it because it was a hobby at the beginning. So if you're doing something that you really like, that helps. You naturally know every angle of the business. And then I think lastly, you have to be cautious. At any moment, you have to remember that things can change. So we always have a contingency plan.
You mentioned that your marketing efforts were unique. You introduced technology, but what made you unique to your customers? What was a key differentiator that you may have had?
Yeah, from our customer standpoint, we get this all the time, that we're a very easygoing business. Now, what is an easygoing business? When you walk into a business, you want to buy a TV, or you want to buy a car or a boat, you start asking questions, you know. It could be technical questions, and then, can I take it home? Can I return it? If I don't like it, I'm not sure about the size. And pretty much every answer we get, we try to answer with a yes. It's harder in the boat business or in a marine environment because you're dealing with high-ticket items like cars, you know, anywhere from $30,000 to $1 million. We're talking about that's our market. If they want to test it, let's go test it. No strings attached. We don't require any kind of commitment. Can I test it today? Yeah, why not? We'll make it happen. You know, we have a lift, we have a trailer, or we can, you know, in one of our stores, we will make it happen. So we try to make it happen. And can you deliver it to my home? Yeah. Can you pick it up? Yeah, absolutely. And we try to charge them a fair price for these services. We don't try to make money on these additional services. So they say, this is amazing. You know, when we were thinking about buying a boat, we were like frustrated. And when they come here, when they come to one of our locations, we blow them with yes. Mm. So that's our key, you know.
It's frictionless.
Exactly. It's actually disruptive a little bit because traditional marine businesses, they want to make sure that they're dealing with a buyer. They want to make sure that there's a deposit. All those old school rules, they don't apply in our locations.
Change the game.
Exactly.
When you started your business, what did your average workday look like compared to where you are now?
Pretty much we were working every day, 20 hours a day. We were on the road all the time, trying to find manufacturers, trying to find banks that would give us a contract on their liquidations. So one day I was in South Carolina, the next day I was in Pensacola, the next morning I was going to Cincinnati, Ohio to see if there are any opportunities there. So there was a lot of traveling because we wanted to understand all the habits of different states. And then, you know, obviously we didn't have a secretary, we didn't have an accounting department, so I was crunching QuickBooks, trying to put everything together, opening a bank account, or if you need a new utility, you go there and registering all those things. So I'm not ashamed to say we even painted bottom, you know, bottom painting or waxing the boats for a delivery. We did all that. And now, you know, when I'm looking at my employees, I understand what they go through, and it's a different mood for sure. Less hours, but more stress because you have to make that payroll. You know, I need to make sure that everybody's gonna get paid, and we're not gonna have cash flow problems, and all those things. So it's equally tiring, but definitely less physical work as far as moving. You know, I have more time to myself now.
When you purchased the company, how did you finance it originally?
We accumulated enough cash to make the purchase, And again, it was a strategic buy for us, and we bought it at the right price. It was, no one was investing in marine businesses at the time. So we financed it through our own equity, and we have some traditional home equity lines, and I say we, I have a partner in the business. I run the day-to-day operations, but I do have a partner, and we pretty much used our own cash.
What would you say is your greatest asset that you have in your company?
Probably, and I know it's a cliche, but it's the team. My sales team, my service team. I have a couple of managers that they've been in the business for a long time. I inherited some employees when I acquired the business, and without them, it would be impossible to run the business like we do. So that would be the most important asset in the business.
So your team, some you inherited, some you added on to
Yes.
that. This is a tough environment to recruit top-tier talent. How did you manage to accomplish that?
It is a challenge, and I feel like I'm doing more HR than anything else, because it's very, very tough. But we do interview a lot of people. Sometimes we interview even though we don't have the immediate, even if we don't have the immediate need for that position, we try to have some people in the back of our heads. And we follow the traditional, methods. I work with some headhunters, and I try to recruit technicians from educational areas. There are a couple of marine universities, so we go there every once in a while, and we try to talk to people. And at the end, I found that references are the key. If you have a good report on someone, you're more likely to get a good guy there.
Excellent.
I rely on that.
Of course. So what would you say is the most difficult decision you ever had to make owning this company?
The most difficult decision would probably be the financing, because we utilize, we have to keep a decent amount of stock in order to capture the market. So we have a leverage. We have to use leverage. We use G Capital for our inventory financing. We have great relationships with them. I think we're a tier 1 customer for them. So we do have a good amount of debt to run the business. And the level of that is the toughest decision, because I can grow faster if I want to, but I like to be cautious, and I don't want to grow too fast, carry too much inventory, open too many stores. So pretty much that's the toughest decision that I have to make day to day on where to keep my inventory level.
So I would like to make a $1 million investment in your business. I brought with me a check today, giving you $1 million. How will you invest those $1 million in your business?
Well, obviously I'm in retail sales. The only way to invest is to open up a different store or grow into a different market. If it was a service business, I could come up with 20 million, ways to utilize that money in a very efficient way. But in my business, it's retail sales. We're selling a luxury good, so we need to grow into a different market. I have a 180-mile stretch from Vero Beach to Miami, so I would probably find a good area and open up another store or two. It could be west coast of Florida. We can try a different state, but that would be the only feasible way to utilize that $1 million.
Great. If you had magical powers, and you can go back in time from day one of your business to current, and you could change anything that you did, Could be strategy, could be a hire, a location, a brand that you decided to represent. What would you change?
I would get into a better real estate. You know.
What do you mean by that?
In Florida, the waterfront properties are very expensive. And in order to run a healthy marina or a marine dealership, you're better off being in a waterfront environment. And as you know, real estate keeps going, it keeps going up, even though sometimes it goes through some downturns. And, ultimately, it becomes the best investment to me. So I would try to get into some waterfront properties in Florida. I really believe in waterfront in Florida, so that would be the thing.
Good
I
luck,
could get
good luck in
exactly.
So now, continuing with your magical powers, I'm going to give you a crystal ball for you to look into.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, how do you think the business climate will change for you in the next 5 years, and how that will impact your business?
The business climate is ever changing, but I like to look at the fundamentals. Strong brands or fundamental needs, they never change. We were using a phone. I mean, when I grew up, there was a phone at home. There is still a phone. Maybe not at home, in my pocket, but there's still a phone. Of course, we cannot look at the crystal ball and see 200 years ahead. And I don't need to be, I'm not going to be around.
Sure.
But we were drinking Coke, and we're still drinking Coke. There were boats on the water. There are still boats on the water. They were very different, but ultimately, they're floating and they're boats. So I don't think that's going to go away. There will always be boat owners. People will always enjoy Florida waters or any waters around the world. It's how do we facilitate that? And luckily in my business, that's not going to change. You need a distributor or a dealer to facilitate that. You cannot order a boat online. You could technically, but someone needs to facilitate that. So I'm very bullish on my business model. But then again, it's a trade, and their margins will be minimized in the future, just like anything else.
Right.
The distribution business will ultimately be affected by something. I cannot foresee how is that going to be. If I had a crystal ball, I would want to see that. And I have some ideas on what's going to happen within 10, 20 years. The habits of, consumer habits on how to purchase things like that, how to buy a car. And another thing is marine business is coming behind auto business. Mm-hmm. So by looking at auto business and how things are moving, I'm able to project in the future and see what's going to happen. I cannot tell you what's going to happen if but we will change our model accordingly. Excellent.
What one word describes you as an entrepreneur?
That's a very good question, Oscar. Probably it would be patience. Patience allow me to run my team, because ultimately I'm not building something, but I am building a team. And we get into arguments throughout the day. My managers get into arguments. There are conflicts, and I'm grateful to have that virtue, that I have the patience to hear them, to calm them, and to get them to do their job, and not to get, not to be bothered with these arguments.
As an entrepreneur, how do you define success?
Success is I think going home at the end of the day and feeling happy about what you do day to day. It's not about hitting that number or selling that company to X amount of dollars or having X amount of employees. I think it's about you. It's about how you feel when you sleep at night, and in the morning you want to do that all over again. I think that's that's success.
That's fantastic. If you're looking for some guidance or advice or to brainstorm an idea, who do you go to?
I'm lucky enough to have a partner, even though we're at the same age and same background. It's good to be able to just talk to someone. It becomes like a therapy session, you know, and time to time I feel like, what if I was alone and, you know, running a business alone, because partnerships are not easy, you know, it's not an easy institution. But we talk to each other a lot. I have other business partners in other businesses. I go to them, I go to my father, and I go to some of my manufacturers, because they are successful business owners. They have $100 million businesses. They build things, and so there are a few manufacturers that I respect. I have great respect for them, so I go to them. And that's about it. I value mentorship a lot, and I would like to be a mentor to someone one day. So whoever I can visualize as a mentor, I go to them.
So great leaders are always learning.
Yes.
What is your best source for knowledge?
Probably time. Time teaches me a lot. I didn't tell you a lot about my background, but when I graduated, and I graduated from a decent school, it was Ivy League school, I did not go into a large corporation. I did not, unlike my friends, I did not start a career at a multinational or a national company. That would have been a good training for me. Now looking back in retrospect, I kind of regret that I didn't do it. But when you're an entrepreneur, that you want to do something, you know, you just want to get out there and create something, put some money into what you're doing. So I kind of try to learn from my own mistakes, and I try to learn from my past, what we did, what happened, and I try to read books. I love biographies. I read biographies of successful business owners and artists sometimes, and all sorts of influential people.
Excellent. So based on your experience, share with me wisdom that could benefit a fellow entrepreneur.
Number one, do something that you love. Don't do something because you see there's a market for it. That might be a good strategy, but at one point, when you go through that time where, you know, that you're going to be successful in a couple years, but you have to go through that miserable time of not getting the reward right away.
Sure.
Doing what you love will help you go through that time, because it won't feel like you're doing something for a reward. You're doing it because it makes you happy, because it nourishes you. So that would be the number one advice that I can give. Be patient, because you're not gonna get the reward, and whatever that reward may be. It could, you know, it could be a prize. It could be money. It could be basically anything, but you have to be very patient. So
along those same lines, what knowledge would you like to receive that would benefit you?
What knowledge would I like to receive? Well, I would like to know what's going to happen within 10, 20 years in the technology business, because I'd like to tie my business at one point to technology. Even though we're, you know, delivering a product, I would like to see where the next technology evolution is going to take place.
How does your company make a mark in your industry or community?
Well, we change lives. I'd like to believe that, because we have a lot of fans, and we call them family. they bought a boat from us. Maybe they bought their second or third boat, and they refer us to their neighbors or to their family members, and they come and they talk to us that the boat changed their life because they started enjoying their lives more. And Florida is huge. We have a huge coastline. You have to enjoy the water at some point in your life. Otherwise, there's really no point of living in Florida if you're not doing that at one point. Even if it's for a day, I suggest everybody to do that. So, you know, that's very important for me. And
great.
Yeah.
Could you share with me one of the coolest things you've ever done, either professionally or personally?
Coolest thing that I've ever done was, again, I'm gonna say it's related to my business. I'd like to share that with you, that I was racing. I used to race boats, and I have a couple trophies, and that was in the European circuit in Norway, and one race took place in Turkey, and that was a thrilling experience for me, and probably those races has something to do with my success, because, you know, being exhilarated with something, it's something that you never forget.
That's great. What do you think is the boldest move you've ever made in your business career?
The boldest move was to invest in a restaurant in London, and it turned out to be a very successful investment for us. Probably we got the best return from that investment, and we did that from what we earned from Marine Connection. So we wanted to diversify at one point, and we invested in a couple of the businesses, but investing in a restaurant was the craziest thing that we ever done.
So I have a place to go eat in London.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Yes.
In what ways do you develop trust with your team or your partner?
Yeah. That doesn't happen right away. It takes time, and but everything that you do, every move you make, it's observed. Even though you don't feel like you're observing your partner, or you don't pay attention on how he deals with others or what he does in his personal life, everything makes a difference. So you create that profile, you create that footprint over time, and then there's a little bit of gut feeling that you want to trust that person. There's a psychological aspect to it, but over time you build that trust. It's like building a home, or building a building.
Sure.
It doesn't happen all the time. You have to lay bricks little by little, and then it becomes something strong.
That's great.
Yeah.
Final question. Let's pretend that your company is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow's a new day. What business would you like to get involved in tomorrow?
Well, I would like to get into a tech company, or I would like to start a tech company, because it's already huge. What you can do with your phone, or what you can do with your computer. I see now I'm at an age where I can, I'm gonna be a father in the near future.
Congratulations.
Hopefully, and they're gonna grow in an amazing environment. It may be harder for them, but they're gonna grow up very differently. So I wanna do something, and I want them to become my customers in 20 years, 30 years. So that's what I wanna do. We already have a startup called Park Jockey, where you can book parking and pay for parking. It's a parking optimization software. It knows where you are, where you're going. It gives you a message. You're going there. Would you like to buy parking in advance and stuff like that? It's an amazing tool. And it's already launched here in Miami, and we do in New York and Chicago, and there's one also in London. And it's very exciting for me, because that's something that you build a user base, and you can reach to millions. I don't think I can reach to millions selling boats, or owning the biggest boat dealership in the world, but you can reach to maybe one day billions through a software.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Very, very exciting.
Yeah.
Danny, I'd like to thank you so much for coming out to the studio today. Congratulations on your ranking on the Inc. list, being one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the United States. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.